Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another video, and today we are going to be testing out something that I've had unlimited amount of comments talking about. What is better, firepower or damage? Now, of course, the overall is always going to be damage, but let's just see how much of a difference it really makes. And if you are only able to get firepower, how much firepower do you need to be able to sort of offset that damage skill instead? So guys, quickly, I know part 2 of the intro. Before we start, guys, I do just want to announce that this video is going to be part 1 of 2. And the reason for it is there is so much more to test than I originally thought. Originally, this was just going to be a one quick video, but it's not. There is so much testing, and we've gone down to the numbers, the math, and everything for you. It's taken a lot of time to obviously record this, edit it, get the math and done for you. So if you are enjoying these sort of videos, please think about hitting the like button. Make sure you smash the subscribe and share it to all your alliance friends. If they're using firepower on their additional skills, make sure you share it to them so they know what they're doing wrong. So guys, let's jump into the video, and I hope you enjoy it. So we are going to be doing a couple of test rounds here. The very first test round we're going to do, guys, is we're simply just going to do a attack. We are only using I because we have got to do a lot of attacks here. So a lot of maths, a lot of attacks. And basically, I'm only using one officer, which is Futurist, not I, sorry. And that's because I just don't want to kill Armad before getting the test done, because we want to be doing the testing all on the same base every single time. So we are just going to be doing one skill shot and pulling back. As always, most of you know that when I do testing, I personally like to do testing when it comes to skill shots, because the normal shot has a lot of variables that can change many things. So as I said, I'm going to be doing lots of attacks here. We're going to get the standard sort of visual to see what that's going to be. I also have my unit only trained to 10 because, again, I don't want to be doing too much damage and killing the base that I'm attacking. So we're going to limit the amount of units we have trained, but we'll always have 10 units. So with that being said, guys, we're going to be doing the first test here with absolutely zero skill training involved. It's just going to be the standard one that Futurist comes with. And then we are going to slowly but surely add on the different skills to see what the difference in the damage is. So the first one here, as we can see, has a total of 10.8 million damage. Now, we're going to do one more attack here just to double check to make sure we get that same result, and to see whether or not, you know, we're getting the same result each time, which we should do. There's no skills that Futurist has that implements that he has sort of a different attack damage variables depending on, you know, when he attacks. There's no chance is what I'm referring to there. Okay, so here we go. We have got the battle report, and this time we have 10.9 million. So basically the same, 10.8, 10.9. They're coming in at pretty much the same amount of damage. The only thing that will offset this result, I believe, would be if we end up getting the 3 shots for the skill, because that's one thing you always have to look out for when doing these sort of testing, is whenever you are attacking someone, it says every 3 shots the howitzer troop gains 50% firepower bonus. So if you get 3 shots off as your skill shots coming in, that skill shot will do 50% more firepower. So we need to make sure that every time we are attacking with only the 2 shots being shot before, not 3, because that will very much offset the amount of the outcome damage overall. So there it is. There's the first one. We are now going to add the average damage buff, which is 15%. A lot of officers have 15%. It is one of the most, you know, standardized damage intensity. Now you can get 20, you can get 25, and with a new officer coming out, you can get 30. So let's quickly add on the 15% damage intensity. This is going to be like a bit of a baseline as to see how much of a difference it really makes. So let's start on with this attack here. And what we're going to be then testing is we're going to add a 20% firepower, because I'm pretty sure there is no 15% firepower. I've tried looking, I can't really find a 15% firepower, but we're going to do a 20% firepower because it's the smallest one I can find, just to see what the difference is. And then we're going to try and find what firepower matches the 15% damage. Now, currently, we have a 30% firepower, and we have a lot of 40% firepowers. So I'm assuming will probably be around that sort of 30 to 40% is what's going to match it. So here's the results, guys, and the results have gone up to 12.4 million. Now, I didn't actually test to see whether or not it was 3 shots that went off, which is something I literally just said I was going to do. So we're going to do the test one more time. I'm going to be watching now. As you can see here, there's the first shot. Here's the second shot. And then, as you can see, there's the skill shot going off. We only got 2 shots off, which means we didn't gain it. So if this is also 12.4, we know that both of those tests are going to be around the same results each time. So here we go, guys. The report has come in and we are looking at 12.4, which again is exactly the same each time. So it's very consistent. Therefore, we can assume that the increase from 10.9 mil to the 12.4 mil is from a 15% damage increase. So now what we're going to do is we are going to remove the skill, which is the damage intensity, and we are going to put on a firepower damage. So guys, here we are. I've just found a 15% firepower buff. Of course, it's a balanced skill, so it also has 15% HP, but that will not affect the actual testing in any way, shape, or form, because the only thing that we are caring about is the report from the firepower. So we've done 15% damage. Now let's see how much 15% firepower increases. Let's do the testing. So again, we want to double check and make sure that we are in no way, shape, or form getting the 3 shots off. So we're going to check here. As you can see, the first shot comes in. The second shot comes in really fast. But then the final one, so you see here, that is going to be a very big difference because I got 3 shots off. I got 3 shots off, which means the skill shot is going to do more damage, 50% more damage than what it normally would. So we are going to have to do this test again. We're going to have to show you guys how it makes such a difference. So here we are, guys. I am going to show you regardless. The damage report here is showing 12.5 mil. Now, as we know, that's because we hit the firepower damage. But if this was the case, it means that firepower and damage is basically the same thing, but we all know it's not. But that's just because of that one extra shot that we got in before the skill shot went off, which means we got a crazy 50% increase in the damage there. So as I said, we are going to keep doing this a couple of times just to make sure we're getting the same consistent numbers each time. So if we now go through and do the exact same test again, we got to make sure that, there we go, we've got 2 seconds, which means there's a good chance we're not. There we go. So the skill shot goes off before that third shot comes in. Now we should see a completely different number. If we see the same number, something's up. Something's up somewhere along the line. But let's quickly wait and see what the result is. So here we are, guys. The report has just come through, and as we can see here, it has now gone down to 11.3 mil. We will do another attack to see if we can get the exact same result for this, and then we can obviously take the math into the account. So we are going to do the attack right now. Here we go, and we will see if or not it's going to be the same result. I think it should be. So there's the first shot. Again, we have a 2 second, and hopefully we get another 2 seconds. There it is. Skill shot goes off. We can pull back. Okay, guys, so with the result coming in here, we can see that the result was 11.1%. Now, of course, the difference here is 11.1 and 11.3. They're very similar, but again, you're always going to have little bits of numbers that are just about out of touch. And honestly, I don't actually know why that is, because there is nothing that should show it as to why there's an inconsistency. Maybe some of you guys can let me know down in the comments, but we have done the math for you guys. And basically, if we take the standard here of the 10.8, obviously we've got 2 results. We got 10.8 and then we also got 10.9. So we're doing an average of 10.85. So if we go from 10.85 million damage, and then we upscale it for the 15% when we got the 12.4, it means we actually saw an increase of 14.2% increase in the output of overall damage. That's when using a 15% damage buff. Now, when we use the 15% firepower buff, as you guys know, the first result came in at 11.3 and the second one came in at 11.1. So we have done an average of 11.2. And the increase to go from the 10.85 mil to the 11.2 mil is an increase of 3.2% increase in damage. So, as we basically can tell, 15% firepower versus 15% damage is actually going to be around 4.43 times the amount difference between the two. So with that theory, we're going to need to times the 15 by 4 just to match that 15% skill damage. So what we're going to do now is we are going to try and up it. I generally believe because of the 4 times difference, we're not even going to try doing like 20% and 30% because I feel like it's unnecessary and we'll just be wasting time. Let's just jump straight into the 40% ones because I feel like, you know, it's still not even that 4 times stronger because it's not like we tested 10% damage and then 40 would be 4 times more. We done 15% damage. So therefore, we're going to jump straight in. We're going to remove this skill here and we're actually going to add the firepower from Argent Flame because as we know, Argent Flame does offer a firepower increase of 40% on artillery. So we're going to do that right now and we're going to test just to see if that damage gets close to it or if it goes over the top and if it is not indeed linear and it does scale as much or more or less than what we're thinking. So there's the first shot. We can see the second shot did take time. And then again, so we 100% did not get the extra 50% firepower because again that would definitely outset the results. So guys, the battle report has come in, but what we're going to do, we're just going to instantly do our second attack because we do want to make sure we're getting a baseline and the same result each time, and then we'll check out both of them at the exact same time. So there it is, the skill shots have come in. Now let's see and wait for the second report and we'll match them to see if they are identical. So guys, here we are. Both battle reports have come in. The first one here, we can see an increase to 11.7 mil. And the second one coming in at 11.7 mil. So again, it's consistent. So guys, the results and the math is going to be the following. So at 40% increase in damage, we went from 10.85 to 11.7. This means we only got 7.8% increase in overall damage when using 40% increase. So I will come up with a math to let you guys know what it is that you're going to have to sort of do to offset that 15%. Now, as we know, guys, 15% is the sort of universal standard that we see on most officers. You know, most officers have a 15% damage increase. So that's why we tested it first. But let's actually have a look to see what just 10% will do. Because as we know, there is a 10% damage and damage resist balance skill that is on 3 separate officers. As we know, guys, the first skill here is going to be from Maestro. This has been in the game for a very long time. And then we had the release of Bear, which brought its second one around. And finally, very recently, we just got another one from Margarita. So with that being said, we currently have 3 of them where we have the 10% damage, 10% damage resist. So we are going to simply add on that now because that's going to increase our damage output by 10%, and we'll kind of see just how much that is compared to the 40% firepower. I feel like we might be able to get roughly the same results here. So let's try and see just how well this is going to change because as we said before, it's about a 4.4%. So I'm assuming that this result will still be the 10% damage is going to be stronger than the 40% firepower, but we will see here in a second. So of course, guys, just like any other result, we are going to be doing it twice at least so that we can try and get a consistent result and number there for you. The second shot just came in and there it is, guaranteed. Every time we're also checking to make sure that we are not getting that 3 shot on because that would obviously differ the results a little bit, and that's not what we want. We want consistency over here. So here are both results, guys. The first result coming in at a 12 mil, so just over that 11.7 we got previously, and then again we done the exact same result coming at 11.9, so almost identical again, but again just that small little offset in numbers. So guys, the math is in and we basically figured out that when you add a 10% damage skill here, we actually saw an increase of 10.1% damage. Now that's really weird because if you think about it, we added a 15% damage, we done it multiple attacks, and we got the same result each time, and it increased it by 14.2%. Now the second one, when we added just 10%, we got 10.1%. It's very weird, but again, we're going to do some more testing. We're going to test out what 20% damage increases it and just see how much of that 20% we get and see if the numbers are kind of matching up, which I do see that they will do. But let's quickly talk about the damage of 10% is graded by 2.3% more than 40% firepower. And honestly, guys, I'm pretty sure that 40% firepower is pretty much one of the biggest firepowers you get in the game, excluding when if you are outside of active alliance, you get an extra 10%, which means you'd get 50%. But overall, I'm pretty sure that 40% firepower is kind of the universal average that you will get on most artillery officers. You get it on Lady Liberty, you get it on Argent Flame, you get it on I think you find it is probably the biggest amount you can get on average of firepower. And I think that that's kind of crazy to see that the strongest firepower isn't even as good as the weakest damage intensity that you can add on. So again, we're just going to see how much of a difference you can do, because believe it or not, guys, I see so many people using firepower skills as their additional skills, and I just know it's hurting them so much. So let's quickly jump in and do a 20%. So we're going to go on to here. We're going to remove this skill. And one other thing I want to test is I want to be able to use two 10% to see if it'd be the same as one 20%. But you can't actually use two balanced skills on one, unfortunately. So as you can see, you can't use two 10s. So maybe we'll do a 15% damage and a 10% damage, and then test it against a 25% damage increase. That, I think, would be a good test to see if we get the same sort of results. Do they stack properly, or will we see a difference in variation of results? So, with that being said, we did say we're going to do a 20% damage now. So, let's quickly try and find the a standard 20%. Here we go. We have got 20% from Thorn here. She just increases her troop by 20%. So, let's quickly do an attack and see exactly what the results are. As always, we're going to do 2 attacks, and then once we've done the 2 attacks here, we'll be able to see what the results are. We're definitely making sure that the skill shot is only going to get the standard and not the additional. So there's the first shot, there's the second shot. We got no additional, which is great. And then we're going to do the second shot here in 2 seconds. So here it is, guys. The first result is in. So now we're going to quickly do that second result just to try and get the comparison. The first shot was 2 seconds. Perfect. So we definitely know it's going to be a consistent result. Well, hopefully it's going to be a consistent result. It should be. So, guys, both results are here. And as we can see, on the first attack, we got a damage of 13 million. And on the second attack, we got a damage of 13.2 million. Now, as always, we'll go to about the 13.1 just to get the average between the two. So, guys, the math here is going to be 13 mil exactly, and then 13.2. So, as I said, we're going to average it to 13.1. Now, to go from 10.85 up to that 13.1 mil is an increase of 20.7% increase in total damage. Now, that's really surprising because, as we said before, the 20 has given us a little bit more than 20. And then if we look at, for example, the 10 gave us ever so slightly more than the 10, but the 15 came in at 14.2, which means the 15 technically gave us a little bit less. But as I said, guys, it is a very small difference, and those numbers could make a big difference when you're at like 9.2, maxed everything out. It could make a big difference. These are just small numbers right now that we're dealing with. So on the larger scale of things, what could that difference really be? So finally, guys, we are going to try and test to see if we can find a 25% damage. The only officer I can think of that has it is going to be her, but I don't have it actually. So we don't have a 25% one right now for me to test with. So what we are going to do, though, in general, guys, is we're still going to do another 15%. In fact, we're going to use the same skills we've already used, which I believe the first one here was going to be that one we used. And then the second one, we're going to use the balance skill, just so that we're using the same ones to see if they perfectly stack together or if there is a sort of a non-linear way of doing it. So with that being said, let's quickly do this testing and see if we get the exact same results with them stacked together, which I don't see why we shouldn't. It should be the same. Obviously, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we do not get the added skill shot increase, which, as you can see right there, that might make a difference because the second one came in at 1 second. So I think we're going to do 3 attacks here and just make sure we definitely get the 2-second thing coming in, because we definitely want to make sure that we are getting the exact same result. So I'm going to do the attack 3 times and then we'll come back with the 3 reports. So here is test number 2. We're going to quickly go through, make sure this number again, boom, we've got 2 seconds. We want another one with 2 seconds preferably. Perfect. That way we know that we're definitely only getting those 2 shots off. Okay, and here we are. We're going to do 1 final attack. I did accidentally press on this, so that's why it says 1 battle report, but there are 2 battle reports in there. And now we've got the first one and then the second one. We definitely did not get the increase there, as we could tell, so that's great. I'm happy with those 3 results. So we'll quickly check to see how consistent they are. 2 of them should be very consistent, but I'm not sure about that first one. Maybe that first one didn't actually strike, but we'll find out here in a second. So here we are, guys. We're going to check out the 3 battle reports here. So the first one came in, the one that I wasn't too sure on. This is 13.7 mil. We're now going to check the second one, which is 13.7 mil. Okay, so it looks like the first one didn't actually register, and 13.6 mil. So overall, guys, around that sort of 13.7 mark is the actual number. So guys, the results here at 13.7, 13.7, 13.6. If we get the average of that, it's going to be at 13.66. So 13.66 from the original 10.85 mil is actually going to be a 25.9% increase, which is genuinely really surprising. Because again, if you think about it, we used the 15%, which gave us a 14.2%, and then we used the 10%, which gave us the 10.1, and we then got a 25.9. So was the original 14.2% different and weird for some reason? Because we done that test multiple times, we got the exact same number multiple times, so it's not like we were doing anything different. So with that being said, they do stack very well. In fact, they're getting us more damage than what they're actually saying. So let's hope Lilith don't watch this video, because for once we're getting more than what we want, which is good. Now we're going to do one more test, because we have already done the 20% damage and we've done the 10%. And the 20%, as we know, was 20.7 increase, and then the 10% was 10.1 increase. So now let's see if we put them together, do we get a 30.8% increase, or do we get more or less? So we're going to do one more test here for that. And I just kind of want to see what the increase is. And then after that, we've actually got a couple of tests to do. We're talking about skill damage, because as we know, we have skill damage skills in this game. And that is 100% something I also want to test and show you guys, you know, just how good the skill damage is to have instead of the other damage ones, if that makes sense. So with that being said, guys, let's quickly check here. We have got the 2 skills. We have got here a 20% and we got the 10%. These are the exact same skills we used in previous testings. So we're going to do the normal 2 attacks, unless of course we get a little bit unlucky with regards to the number here of how quick it shoots. But 2 seconds, yep, there it is, and hopefully we get another 2 seconds. Perfect. So now we can pull back. I saw the animation of the shoot go off. We're gonna have to do 3 attacks again, unfortunately. I just want to make sure I don't want to skew any numbers. I want to make sure we're consistent with every testing. I know this is gonna be a bit of a longer video, but it's probably the most requested video I've been asked throughout the whole 1.5 years that we've been making videos. So I hope you're ready to strap down and get ready just to see all these results and what really and truly is the best skill you can add on to get the most out of your howitzers. And to be fair, this is also going to work for your tanks as well, guys. Just because I'm testing with howies, it will work when it comes to tanks and that. It might work, technically speaking, better, because you really do need to take in consideration of your normal attacks when it comes to tanks and stuff, because your tanks do get a lot of that normal attack coming in to help. Now, don't get me wrong, howies do obviously do that as well, but for testing purposes, it is so much easier to test in referring to skill damage when testing howies, because as we know, the percentage of their normal shots is kind of crazy and all over the place. So you do get very different results when it comes to the normal shot, and I can in fact show you that straight away really when we look at any of the results here. So if I just quickly come into any of these results, as we know, these 2 have the exact same result. We've got 13.7, and then we've also got 13.7 here. But if we have a look, we've got 7.34, on the normal attack, and on this one we got 8.02. So those, although the skill shots are identical, the normal shots are different because there is an average of accuracy that comes in with how many shells are hitting, and there's a lot to think about when it comes down to it. So as I said, we're going to be doing multiple tests here. I want to make sure we've got consistent numbers. We just got the battle report come through. So now let's quickly do one more attack, and let's hope that we get the 2-second shot here. Boom, perfect. Now we know 100% that these numbers are going to be accurate, and we want to make sure we got a very consistent result for you guys. So boom, we come in, we have got these 3 reports. Now the first one, 14.2 mil. The second one coming in at a 14.3 mil, so I do assume that that animation was just there, and 14.2. So 14.2, 14.3, 14.2. So the math is in, and with all of these results coming in, we are looking at 14.23 mil on average between the 3 of them. And then on top of that, if we take the original number, which is 10.85, and then we actually increase to 14.23, you are looking at 31.1%. So it is indeed basically the same, but slightly more again. Now, that's a very interesting fact to find out that, again, guys, damage is literally 4.4 times stronger than firepower when adding it on. Now, the next thing we're going to be testing is not going to be in this video, and the reason for it, guys, is I don't want this video to get way too long. The numbers get a bit confusing, so we're going to talk a bit now about the firepower, what you're going to need to match the damage, and then on top of that, we're going to talk about what's going to be coming in the next video. So we'll start off with next video. Next video, I'm going to be testing the skill damage increase. And what I mean by skill damage increase is, for example, when you have Antonina. Antonina has the skill damage of 25%. The officer skill boost from Pain is 30%. And then we also have the officer skill boost of 40% from Red Heat. And we're going to be doing the exact same thing that we've just done with firepower and damage versus skill boost and damage. So how much do we need? Do we need 40% to match 15% damage? I don't think so. I think that the difference is going to be not as great as what it is with firepower, but I reckon 40% skill boost will probably be around the same as maybe 25% damage. But again, I haven't tested this in a very long time, so I'm also just as excited to find out the information. But that is going to be in next video, because this video has already gone on for so long. Now, the next thing we're also going to test in next video is also going to be something that a lot of people have mentioned to me before that they're not too sure on, and that is the skin damage with your base. So as we know, we currently have firepower 5%, artillery damage intensity of 5%. Now, if it's anything to go off of when it comes to the damage and firepower, we know damage is better. But I also actually own the skin, the Christmas Cottage, which gives us firepower 5%, but then artillery firepower 5%. So is 5% artillery firepower better, or 5% damage intensity better? That's what we're going to be testing in the next video as well. So these 2 videos hopefully will come out in the same week. Maybe there might be 1 week difference, but they will definitely not be more than 1 week difference. So if you're watching this video now, the next video to come out should be, unless there's like an update video, should be the second part of this video here that will go through the skill damage, the skin damage increases, and all of that. So guys, in conclusion to this first part of the series, guys, we're going to just break down everything that we've gone through today and kind of give you a summary of what you need to be able to offset everything. So we have figured out basically that damage is far superior to firepower when it comes to additional skills on your units. So with a 10% damage, you're going to need averagely around 51% firepower to basically equate the same amount of added damage at the end result. The same with 15%. Now, again, we're only going off the numbers that we saw, and the 15% for some reason only gave the 14.2%, whereas the others gave the numbers they were saying, which is very peculiar, but we're still going off of these same numbers. Now, if you was to have a 15% skill added onto your unit, you're going to need around 72.8% firepower skill just to get the same result. And for the big one, which is 20%, remember, this is just one single skill. You can get one skill that gives you 20% damage increase. That would need to be an 106 firepower increase from one skill just to match the 20% damage increase. So next time you're putting your skills on and you're thinking about how to get the most damage out of your officers, do not go with firepower, because as we can tell so far, added a 20% damage is already better than 2 of the best firepowers you could put together. So take that in mind next time you're building your account. So guys, I'm going to be ending this video here. Once again, please think about hitting the like button. I really appreciate all the love and support. Join us down in the comments. And as I said, these videos take a lot to make, especially with all the math that we're trying to do. Again, if you think I'm doing anything wrong, I'm more than happy to listen. Please let me know down in the comments if you think we're doing something wrong here. But when it comes to this, I feel like skills is the easiest things to test off of, because it's just going to be the same thing over and over. But with that being said, guys, stay tuned for part 2. As always, I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, everyone.